And there she is, the Cindy. You are on mute. Don't you forget.
I did. Is my screen really fuzzy?
Nope. Very clear.
Really? Because when I'm looking at it, I'm just wondering because of the hub I bought, I never noticed it before. And like up here, I don't know, you can't see what I'm pointing at. That up there like looks really not fuzzy, but granulated, I guess.
Okay,
when I'm looking at it.
I wouldn't be able to read it. You're also a smaller image. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if I go into full screen mode, it's like kind of wavy a little bit.
Yeah, and you aren't. And so I'm thinking it has to do with the hub. So that's the negatives of having this. It seems to do weird things. So heads up.
Okay, good. Good research.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about it though. That and my mouse is still a little glitchy, not enough to like be bothersome, but
okay.
Yeah. To adjust this.
Did Emily come and let you know that she was taking Anna home because Anna got sick?
Okay. Yeah, poor thing.
Yeah, I know that's no fun at all.
Nope.
Oh man.
Off. There it goes.
There's Tammy. Good to see you, Tammy.
Hey, Tammy.
We were just catching up. Cindy has a new port that allows like all kinds of different USB hubs or USB things to be plugged in, and so she was noticing a difference in her video quality. What does it look like on your end? Does her image come across very clearly?
It looks, I don't know if it looks any different or not. The image is always usually pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought.
And I think it depends upon the size. So I think if I take you full screen, that's where I can notice the difference.
Yeah, then it might be more. Yeah.
But in the size that it's in right now, I wouldn't be able to tell at all any difference that way.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that something's different, but
I don't know what view you put it on too, but I use gallery view so that I can see everybody in equal size. And so I like that because I can see all the faces at once.
Well, I usually jump on a little early to fiddle with my camera because I always tell myself I feel like somebody's watching me all the time if I don't. Yeah.
Some people put tape over the top of theirs.
Yeah, I just tell my
It is funny. Some of the older pastors that I've been, like introducing to Zoom, they like, oh, so that's what that thing is there for. I always put tape over it. It was actually John who said that he puts tape over the hole so that nobody's spying on him. He's always worried about those red commies coming to take things over. Oh, well, hey, let's do a little bit of catch up. How about we'll start at the top. Cindy, tell us about what's happening in the last week's time frame.
I should be ready for this every time you ask, and then my brain goes, whoa. I can't think of anything. I woke up at 3 a.m. with my toe with shooting pains in my big toe, and I couldn't go back to sleep. So that's all I can think of right now. So I'm super sleepy.
Okay, you got it. We'll let that count. Okay. Tammy, what about you? Catch us up.
I know the same thing. Let's see. Since we last met, well, I think I shared with you briefly about going out with the Pokemon Go group.
Yes.
We had that event on Saturday. Every once a month they have what they call community days, and it's where a bunch of people get together and walk down downtown Exeter. And it's actually, I saw Adrian walk.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh wait, something happened where you got put on mute.
And I basically use that time just for God to kind of just open my eyes to what is going on. It's kind of what I used that, and just kind of get a feel of just where their hearts are and where the needs were, and also praying about who else is a Christian, and kind of just putting out some questions. And because I mean, I want to get together with those that I know are believers and start talking with them about a more aggressive prayer for these people in these groups. So anyway.
I've got all of these Pokemon like merging together with evangelism things. Like, got to catch them all. You know, like that's the new Pokemon strategy for evangelism.
Yeah.
The Father doesn't want anyone to perish. Got to catch them all. So, oh, man, sorry. But that is amazing. I love it. I think it is brilliant. And so, Amy, why don't you go next? Tell us about your first outreach too, and then anything else to catch us up on.
Well, I kind of go back and forth about trying to meter success, because we started with knowing that we're going to be planning around tantrums and toddler times and all that stuff. So if I go into it going, well, we only did blah, then we're going to get frustrated to start with. So the fact that we got out of our houses with our toddlers is a win for us at this point.
Win number one.
Yeah. So we got to the park, and the way the park is set up, it's all surrounded by the houses there in Alex and Joanna's neighborhood. And so it's more like a community backyard. Like the kids leave their toys there and they're still there in the morning, and all the cats poop in the same place. And it's just the weirdest little thing. So when we first got there, there was a family there, and they're like, "Hi, did you just move to the neighborhood?" "No, but our friends did." And so they were really open. And those were the only people that we got to talk to last week. And then we went and saw Alex and Joanna's house and got to be with them. And so we are like supporting each other and talking about books we might want to read together, and sharing knowledge and all that, but also just doing fun things in public. And then next week we are going to a park in Tulare, and Tulare is just vastly different than that neighborhood. And I start praying over the places, and I drove by it yesterday, and there was a homeless woman there with her stuff strewn out all over the picnic table. So it's a completely different day and night spot that we're going this Saturday. Wow. And then that's all we're going to do this month. We'll plan something different for next month.
I love it. Again, I love the merger in both of your stories of the prophetic and your strength in prayer, but also evangelism as well. Well done. Good stuff. John, give us a little bit of an update. What's been happening in the last week or two? And then actually, you've got an update on your reach group as well. Tell us how that went. And don't forget, you're on mute.
There, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Well, we went out Monday for the first time, and it was it was good to bad. It was one of those things. We met. It was Abram and the two boys and Jeff and Zane, and we met at the Exeter Coffee Shop, and it was the awakening that it was Veterans Day. So I'm like, well, because our goal was what we were planning on doing, and so we were coming together, getting coffee, and then we each week of 3 weeks we're going to go to PD 1 week, Fire 1 week, and Public Works 1 week.
Nice.
So we met, we had coffee, and then we actually went ahead and we read our verses right there in the coffee shop. Good. And that was pretty cool because Robert from church, and I don't know his last name. He's been sitting by us the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah.
He walks kind of with a limp. And so he came in getting coffee, and so we got to talk to him a little bit. We invited him to read with us. He didn't want to, so we just said, "Hey, is there something we can pray for?" And so he said, "Yeah, my wife, she's got some pulmonary problems going on, and we're actually going to the doctor today." And so I said, "Yeah." So we got to pray with Robert, and then Caitlin Watkins works there now. Kevin, I don't remember the wife's name, but Kevin, he's Dollar Tree.
Yeah, Jennifer and Kevin Watkins. Yep.
Yeah, so Caitlin is there, And so we basically we just said, hey, we're just going to be walking up to PD and we're going to bless them. And so we bought a gift certificate to take to them and a flyer. So anyways, we're telling her that it's just keep in mind, that's what you're made for, you know, is to have that relationship. So, and it was cool. The lady that owns the place is obviously a person of peace. So it was really cool to just hang out. And so then we walked up to PD, and of course they were closed, which was a drag. We didn't run into anybody on the way, but we were able to, we just prayed over PD from the outside, actually at the monument. And then of course we have men's breakfast this Saturday. And so even as life is on, like Jeff had his interview today, and Jeff was, I don't know if you saw his text that everything went good, and he said I was even able to invite them to breakfast. I was just like, wow, this is so great. So, and then at your house on Sunday, we walked the neighborhood down to Juan, and I think it was, I think Jeff again, and we took Daniel with us, and Juan was definitely more open this time. And he, I know I got to step back. I just realized I'm talking to the phone like it's, anyways. And he actually is going to come to breakfast this Saturday. So we were super excited about that it just like, he was much more open. He talked a lot more about how he'd been hurt by people in the church, not by the church itself.
That's awesome.
And we said, you know, we talked to him quite a bit, and then told him to just remind him that the relationship is with Jesus. And that's who, because I said, we're all going to fail you. All of us are going to fail you.
Yeah.
But so anyways, it was really good. Really good. I'm excited for the men's breakfast this week. A lot of guys are saying they're going to come. Yeah, we're excited. I'm actually going to talk again, but yeah, it is good. It's somebody else's church, and Glenn asked if I would, so I'm excited about that. But the guys may not be, but that's the way it goes.
They get to take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. Awesome.
Yeah,
That's so good. Suzette, give us an update about the last week or two.
Okay, well, mine feels a little different, I think. I feel like, I think I said last time, I just feel like, you know, mine are like steps of obedience is what I'm going through. And I see like God gives me a piece of a puzzle, and I just have to step in that obedient. And then I'm starting to see a bigger picture of how some of these things connect. And one thing is like Cindy and Danielle and I are, you know, we have these two people in the neighborhood that we all have a connection that we feel like we want to be an encouragement towards. And so we're putting that together, this like encouragement basket kind of for these two women. And it has to do with identity and who they are. And Elva and Jennifer. And then with Emily, my daughter, you know, we're talking about, you know, with, she's talking about children's ministry, you know, and how it's just so connected to women because of children. And there's also this, you know, wanting to be encouraging to, you know, women in our neighborhood as well, which is all feeling like it's all tying together. And she wants to do a very similar kind of thing, you know, yeah, with the women who are the moms at our church. And so I can feel this all kind of coming towards something. And, you know, I almost feel like it's almost like for the month of December, like, let's take every day and just like encourage somebody.
Yeah.
So like hope, you know, and I feel like there's a group of women that I feel really a connection with, you know, and they know who they are, right, Amy? And she's one of them. And I just feel like I know that God he's, you know, and I also went with Amy on hers because it's like, I want to be a part of that. So I feel like all these things are connected. Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, like God is bringing some people together for these things, but ultimately for something even more.
That's awesome. That's good. It sounds like earlier on, I was on a call with some pastors from the region, and we were talking about Acts chapter 16, Paul and Barnabas are looking for, the kingdom to expand, and they're wanting to go in these areas, and the Holy Spirit keeps saying no, but they keep trying different areas, and the Holy Spirit keeps saying no. And then eventually he has the dream of the Macedonian man. So they completely pack up and move to a new area to go follow the Holy Spirit's leading. And they get there and there's no man, there's a woman. Lydia is down by the river and, kind of breaking all these social norms. But it reminds me of what you're saying, but also about all this movement that you guys are making in there. It's so amazing to be able to hear all that stuff. Kimberly, give us an update about the last week or two.
Well, I think that I've been doing a lot of, the last few days trying to rest. And so in that rest, I have been doing a lot of prayer. So I've been just in a season of prayer for marriages specifically and other things. But, and it's been rest in the midst of a lot of busy. So, and yeah, I think it's been good. We've been trying to have meals with people and really thank people for the things that they're doing. So we had the youth over one week and we had a big dinner with them, and then we had the children's ministry over, and then yesterday I got to tag along with Michael and Cindy for their thank you lunch. And so, yeah, it's just been a lot of a season of thank you, I guess. And also in the midst of all the busyness, because we've had meals with people, more meals with people than not with people lately. And so just trying to find the rest in between those things and really trying to take care of me, because I've gotten a sinus infection. And so just trying to kind of keep my chest and my throat covered up, and it feels a lot better. And so, yeah,
That's
I've
awesome.
been prayed over. I've had people anointing me with oil, and I love just seeing the body all come together and loving on other people, but I get to experience it happening to me as well. And I like what we have here. So
that's awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to do a summary of chapters 10, 11, and 12. Then I want to show the semicircle. That'll be the tool that we'll zero in on. And then we'll go ahead and we'll see that it could be that those are the two things that we wrap up with. I want you to always be thinking, okay, what is it that in all of this, through the book and through the conversation, God's saying to me? So be in tune to that. And then if it works out time-wise, then we'll go ahead and we'll use the questions that went out in the email as well. So let me walk through a summary of chapters 10, 11, and 12. So chapter 10 is called Rediscovering Family. And so Bob walks through his kind of journey at growing up with a dad who was in the Air Force, and how Montana and the lake was a key place that they gathered for extended family, and what it was like, all the family packed together. But it was just these small glimpses of family vacation where so many people from multiple generations were all gathered together. He lays that in next to a biblical vision for family, where he talks about oikos, a word that you guys are familiar with. It's the Greek word that can be translated as the actual house, the building itself, or the household, or the people inside of it. And so that is, it's like this all-encompassing word for all of those things. So he begins to describe what that's like, and how the oikos was comprised of multiple generations, usually working around one common family business. And so if you had Simon and Andrew, who were brothers, they were fishermen. That doesn't mean that they, Bob says, they didn't walk away with a lunchbox and go off to fish. They probably did main parts of it. It seems like they were involved with the actual fishing itself and bringing it in, but people would have been mending nets and drying fish and selling fish. Like everybody would have been involved in this whole family business. And so he then talks about the way that we are operating in largely nuclear families, with a mom and a dad and kids, and then even half of those are only half of one of the parents that are in there. And so the nuclear family has had a lot of difficulties that it's faced in our day and age, and we largely don't have multiple generation families that are in existence. He goes into Jesus' family and starts talking about how he operated, how he was rejected in Nazareth, and then what he did is he went from Nazareth after being rejected there, going into Capernaum with these friends that he had developed in Simon and Andrew, and he ends up going into their home, becoming a part of their oikos. And then when he says, I'm going to make you fishers of men, this is more than just him saying like, hey, I've got a catchy way to be able to say we're going to do some evangelism. He's really saying we're going to take what you've known as the family business and turn it inside out. And so literally the house is used as a mission base. Instead of a place of provision and protection only, they open up the door. The demoniacs are coming inside. They're getting healed through Jesus. They're getting trained in all of the things that he's teaching them to do, and they take on a new family business. And so I love the whole last paragraph of that chapter. I've got it all highlighted in different colors because there's just so much the way Bob syncs up all these things about the way discipleship, pattern after Jesus, oikos, it all is a part of this bigger whole. So he goes into chapter 11, building a family on mission, to talk about how do we begin to do this. He again refers back to how Jesus entered the family business of Simon and Andrew and what kind of family that is. He talks about his and Pam's story about how he had watched people in ministry do family or mission, and he didn't like that because people chose family to the neglect of, they chose mission to the neglect of family. He and Pam had decided they weren't going to do that. And so they kind of led into this family and mission, but this put them at odds. Bob was usually mission focused. Pam was usually family focused. And then what happened is they were like at odds with one another because it never felt like either pot like had enough going on in it. I think he talks about how Pam had these firewalls around family time. I think Kimberly and I completely understand that because that's exactly where we were before we had met Bob and Pam. And really, we were feeling so much of the pain of trying to live like that. Then he points out family on mission is how he saw Mike and Sally and the rest of the 3DM team leading. And then we got to watch him as they were growing into all of that. Let's see. Then he goes into the vine and the branches, that Jesus talks about a way of living. You guys are familiar with that, and you guys are somewhat familiar with the semicircle about bearing fruit and abiding, pruning and growth. And then in chapter 12, the final chapter for the book, he kind of is wrapping all things up, saying oikos is the essence of what we're going after. How do we see for our day and age oikos established where it's a spiritual extended family on mission? And in order to do that, we need to use some training wheels in Missional Community to be able to do that. You guys will notice I don't really use Missional Community in our church anymore because sadly, those first goes gave it a bad name. Missional Community meant a place where you go and things die and people die and marriages break apart. It was really bad. Like our first 5 missional communities we launched all literally kind of died in a variety of ways. And so I've renamed them home groups to be able to kind of help bridge what we knew as common Bible studies and small groups and say, how do we focus them without and make them a little bit bigger? He talks about the rhythms of up and in and up and out. He talks about the way that it feels and how it all works together. Many of you guys that are either in our home group or have been, you kind of understand what that looks like now from just from experience as well as in concept. And then he kind of lands the plane with this idea that Jesus is building this big family, spiritual stones, as Peter talks about, continues on. And it's a big invitation to join the family, come be a part of this movement of people who are wanting to restore discipleship and mission for everyday people. So that's how he wraps it up. What was catching your attention from those 3 chapters? We'll just open it up and popcorn style share and dialogue about that. Don't forget you're on mute if you're going to share. Oh, come on, brave ones. There we go. John.
I'll share. Oh, are Are you there?
Yep, we're here.
Okay.
Every once in a while, your
Sorry,
phone
my phone
comes. Yep, it's coming across a little bit sketchy from time to time, like your signal. But go ahead, we can hear you the last time you were talking.
That's so weird. So as I was going through these, I thought of how, as a church body and as our family, we have already started putting a lot of these into practice through the home group and things of that nature, and how good it is. As we got towards the end of my reading, it was the reminder when we talk about the semicircle, the abide and bearing fruit and growth and pruning, and not to, I mean, I realize that as we go, there is a season or not a firewall, but where we need to be careful to not get too busy that we forget what our total purpose is and that is the family unit and the children that we have, and obviously reaching out to them. So anyways, it was just great to see where we had come from and where we're at now, and just there's still more pruning that needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't tell you how excited Kimberly and I are to see the missional community like in living color. And then I think it's amazing, and I'm thankful to the Lord for his grace that because of the timing with Alex and Joanna, that was basically a video of what we've been trying to build for years now. And there it is on display, and you can see the fruit and the effects of it. And so, yeah, these chapters felt like reading our story and going, oh yeah, as Bob is describing what he's learning, we've been learning from he and Pam. And it's been so fun to get to those points. And it feels like, I mean, I just want to clank glasses and toast, like over and over and over again, all the great things that are happening. Somebody else jump in.
I think one thing that really stands out to me is we've had several people come through from 3DM, and you just kind of watch them like, okay, you guys are touting this missional community thing. Of course, you're on your best behavior when you're here. Is how I've always felt about it, right? But someone that isn't necessarily of 3DM was Andrew Chalmers. And so every time he's been through, he to me exemplifies family on mission. They do all their stuff together. He and his wife switch off watching kids, and it's seamless. It's not like, oh my gosh, it's your turn to watch them. It's your turn to change the diaper. You don't see that stuff. And then I compare it to, like, I'm looking at on page 113 where it's talking about healthy rhythms, and I'm comparing it to watching my family as I grew up, and it was like, you definitely had a space where you had to go be together, and that was Thanksgiving, and there was always a fight. And then there was a space where nobody ever came to our house without calling first. And I still would never go to any of your houses without calling first and making sure it was okay. It's just my culture, So, I mean, it's just I'm looking for those examples of people that are doing it and not faking it until they make it. Like, this is really part of who they are.
Yeah. What's crazy too, this is slightly like a humble brag, but Andrew and Ellen don't travel together like that until they met me. And so the reason Ellen comes is because I was discipling Andrew and really making change. So he made rhythm changes and he made family on mission changes. And she was like, I've got to come meet you guys because you've made huge changes in my family. And so it is really great. I love watching exactly what you observed, watching the way that they're doing these things. I don't know that I understand because I don't know what it was like for them before that. But I just know again and again, they've talked about it's so radically different. It feels like they've been doing it forever to me when I see the way that they're operating. But it is pretty crazy to get some of the behind the scenes times with them and ask how all that's going. So somebody else jump in.
I was going to say, I think for me, something that I'm definitely learning is the rhythms and boundaries. And can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're coming across great.
Okay, good. And because I didn't even realize, I was just talking to John about this morning. I didn't realize, like, there's always this guilt of, you know, doing and being, and you know, like this prophecy workshop is an example that's coming up that I really want to go to. And then my daughter Becky is, you know, coming that weekend because it's my birthday. She wants to celebrate. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, you know, Emily helped me focus, like, Mom, you know, like, it's not like it's wrong if I can't do something because I'm going to be with somebody else or something. And I'm learning that, you know, family on mission, I have part of my family on mission, and I have some of my family that's not. And so finding how to, because I love our missional community that I feel we're in, you know, I see it, I feel like we're a part of it, I'm connected, but I don't want to leave some of my kids who aren't on this same place as we are. I don't want to leave them behind. And so trying to prioritize those things, you know, and not feel guilty how I do it. I guess that's where my struggle is. But it's also, I think that God just says, be, you don't have to do, just be. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep. Sounds very real. Sounds like, you know, real life stuff. I think we can all relate to it in different ways. But yep, absolutely. There's a variety of guilt that comes away. Sometimes it's guilt that I'm not slowing down enough. Sometimes it's guilt that I'm not doing enough. And it's crazy the way that it works out. That's why I think I mentioned it to you guys last week. This tool in particular, the semicircle, is called the sledgehammer of the Western church. It's because it's so countercultural in a very subtle way. And so, yep, I think there's a lot of guilt and fear and all kinds of things that go on around this way that we currently live. So thanks for sharing that. Somebody else want to jump in?
I just like the practicalness of the 3 chapters. And there's kind of just like practical how to, I really appreciate that. Like just seeing and hearing what it looks like, living it out and doing it, pros and cons, I mean, in ways, and the learning process they went through. I thought it was so interesting too. I think it was in the 1st chapter, or not 10th chapter, how he automatically thought of Jesus primarily as an individual facing all the challenges alone. And I never thought about it. Like, I think that's how a lot of us see it. And so that was just kind of eye-opening. I mean, I've heard the word oikos so many times, but hearing it this way, just kind of like you got to see how they really lived and what it really looked like. And yeah, I guess I did think he just kind of did all that on his own. And so I think that's pretty eye-opening, you know, to realize that that's not how it was, and that's not really what he's talking about. So
yeah, it's like every culture that paints Jesus, they paint Jesus to look like them.
Yeah.
So when we read the Bible, we kind of transmit our own life experiences into it, and we expect his life experiences to be the same. And yeah, I think that's a massive eye opener.
I really appreciate too that he actually talked about, or how he worded it, about introverts and how they might see this as like, I don't know, I can't remember. Oh, here it is. Naturally afraid of all the energy, they will be drained by being around all the people. And I really appreciated that part too, because that's what oh my gosh, that is definitely what goes through my mind. Is like, oh, that sounds so exhausting. Awesome, but exhausting. I liked how he, you know, talked a lot about the biting and all that stuff. So.
Yep, absolutely. Tammy, you want to jump in? Let me see if I can help. No.
Okay.
There
All
we
right.
go.
There we go. Sorry about that. It wasn't popping up. So for me, I think the biggest I mean, definitely, I know I definitely fall in the whole, the whole kind of do it ourself type of mode, because I don't know, I've been in very strong communities at time, which I loved, and then just haven't really as much. And I know part of even just reading that, it's just like remembering some of those things, and even going to your home group and going, oh, I really miss this, I miss that, but also not really sure. It's been hard with Sam, how his schedule is, and he he says, well, I can only go every other, and just how his schedule, and that's always been kind of a, how family on mission, it's, we haven't figured out that rhythm. We really haven't a lot of that. So, and I don't know, I still don't really know all the answers on that. So it's kind of a, yeah, I know that God, that's one area I've even mentioned last week, just that drawing. So I know God is kind of dealing now with that, or bringing it more to the forefront. So but I can't really say what the answers are.
Yeah. I mean, bless you guys for giving us the grace to be able to work this stuff out in front of you and with you. I mean, I was thinking, like, with Cindy, I remember Cindy and Darren and the boys being a part of like our very first version of a missional community, and like cooking pizzas together, and like, and just, I mean, I think it's exactly like what you said. There were so many times where, man, we have not figured this part of it out yet. And oh man, and then we're making the mistakes publicly, and then like that goes into somebody's like memory bank and equates it to that word and that phrase, and I get that, and so yeah, I think that's kind of sweet that there's this mixture of memories that are drawn back that are really great, and yet you're trying to figure out, how does this fit in my real life, not in a fake life that I can idealize, but how do I actually get this into my real life, kind of like what Suzette was saying, with my real family, where we really are, like Amy was saying, with real kids, not like we're trying to pretend that everything's okay. And yeah, we get that and feel that. Kimberly, why don't you jump in some of your thoughts about the chapter?
Well, as I was reading, it was like putting a smile on my face, because I was thinking, you know what? We've done this for a really long time, and we've failed a lot. And I'm glad that we never decided not to ever try, because I love what I'm seeing in our home group right now. And I just see a bunch of people together that love each other. I see a loving place to be able to bring other people into, to get loved on. And I see all of you got, like, all of these people that are having these little expressions, like Amy and John and Suzette and Cindy and just Tammy, and seeing all of you guys do all of these things. And it's super exciting to see you go out. The one thing that I was telling Michael is that, we don't really have a common mission that we're going after. So we have you guys, and I also think that's really cool that in our home group, there's a lot of different expressions of that happening. So, but, and we have gone out, it's kind of like our neighborhood, I guess, but it's not really a clearly defined mission. And, because we've done things, and John and them are still continuing to go over and talk to someone that they met. And, we walk around the block and we pray for our neighbors as we're walking. And there are certain people, as they're out, we'll individually pray with them and, ask them about how they're doing, because we've met a lot of our neighbors because of trying to have block parties and stuff. But it was just really exciting for me to see, wow, we're really getting to experience this in our home, with all the trial and error and everything. And I do remember when we were doing it with Cindy and Darren and the Wrights, and and it was fun, and we tried, and it was still great. It was just different. So, I was just reminiscing of all the different things and all the different people. And even the home group we have now isn't the original people that we started with. Most of them are gone. And it's new people have come in. And now I feel like those people have stuck, and we have people come and go. But so anyway, sorry, I could probably go on and on, but I'll stop now. So that's the gist of it.
Yeah, great stuff. All right, well, let me show the tool. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time, make sure at least we can get through that. And then I want to just see what's catching our attention, because there's definitely practical sides to the tool. Even though we conceptually understand it, I think this is one of those that's just got loads of implications for how we actually put it into practice. So my toolbar is all ready to go. Okay, so the text this flows from is John chapter 15. In that passage, Jesus is in the upper room and he's talking with the disciples, and he's explaining to them a whole bunch of things before he leaves. And this one, he explains to them how they're related together and how kind of, in a sense, things work in the kingdom of God and a rhythm that they should live in. He describes that he is the vine, that we're the branches, and that the Father is the gardener, the one who actually takes care and tends the vine and the branches, and that the goal in all of that is fruitfulness, that he's made us to bear fruit, kind of like that language from the tract, you're made for this, we're made to bear kingdom fruit. But then Jesus also says that we're called to abide and remain in him, and those are seemingly opposite things. So we can kind of put them on two different sides of the same spectrum, that we're called to do both of these things. And then just like, earlier, I was agreeing with Suzette that there's oftentimes guilt that we're not doing enough and bearing enough fruit. And then there's a guilt that we're not abiding and remaining enough. And that oftentimes there's this battle between the two of those. And so using a pendulum then as a way to get that, there's a rhythm to this. It's not necessarily an either or, it's both and. And the way the both and works is in this pendulum swing that, we see Jesus getting away to be with the Father, to abide and remain in him early in the mornings. And then he goes from there and he goes and he does his ministry, not as an individual with this extended spiritual family that he's traveling with. And he goes and bears fruit, and he preaches, he teaches, he loves, he shares, he heals. He does all those things that we can think of that Jesus does. And then he returns, oftentimes back to a spot around a meal, to abide and remain with the people that he's with. He gets alone with friends. He gets alone with God, abiding and remaining, and then swinging out and bearing fruit. He does this on a weekly basis too. He practices Sabbath. Even though the religious leaders were slamming him because he was breaking their rules, he practiced a Sabbath rest. He abided and knew that he could trust in the Father to do all the work. And then in the other 6 days of the week, he went to bear fruit and to go preach the kingdom and to see, the gospel shared with city after city after city. And then he would rest and remain in typical Jewish ways on that Sabbath day of rest. And he would do that on seasonal basis too. He would get the disciples away, especially at the later end of the ministry. He'd get them away to Caesarea Philippi, and he'd get them away from the crowds. He's not going to put them in the public limelight. And he did that right before he went to go bear the greatest fruit that he gave with his life, where he sets his face like steel or flint to go back to Jerusalem and to give up his life, to bear the ultimate fruit on the cross. And so you just see him living like this on a daily, on a weekly, and even on a seasonal basis with the disciples. And then when you just look at the created order, the world works like this. From the seasons to the plants that we've got growing all around us, it works like this. There's some kind of a rhythm to it. And yet we live like this. In our day and age, we live like this. And we're just constantly going. And we're dealing with burnout. And we're dealing with, oh gosh, I just need a vacation. And then we go on vacation and we need a vacation from our vacation because we planned it, maybe packed the gills, or, it wasn't long enough. We never put down our devices. There's just so many things that go into it. So I'll leave that there kind of to represent the pendulum swing and the movement of it. and then draw these lines in here to kind of just show that ongoing movement. The other word that he says is that with the Father being the vine dresser, that he prunes us. And this is stuff that he does sometimes in a disciplinary way. He may prune us because there's something that needs to be changed in our life. He may increase the heat, so to speak, and draw our attention to it. And I want you to deal with this. He always does it in love, but he may discipline us. It may not be pleasurable for the season, but it will produce good results. That pruning usually happens out of a season of bearing fruit. And sometimes we can participate with that. It may mean that we let the fruit go. Like, yay, we celebrate all the things that God did, and we do a lot to celebrate that in the harvest season. But then we let go of it because our identity is not wrapped up in the fruit and in the doing. We let go, and we willingly let that be pruned away so that the Father can bear more fruit. The word that's not used in here in the text is the word grow. It's just the assumed thing. We know that living things grow. And so out of that rest and abiding, there's this movement in the direction of bearing fruit. And all of that is kind of under the surface. So it's unseen. It's, underground. It's kind of like root work that God is doing in our life. And then I usually say that it's just not very sexy. Our world, and like we think that it's like really great to, be busy and for it to be visible. I mean, we share pictures of, our workouts and all that kind of stuff. It's just not very, you can't usually see it above the surface, or there's not much to show with it. But looking back, growth happens as we come out of abiding and go in the direction of bearing fruit. So that's the semicircle in a medium version presentation of it. Give me some thoughts and feedback, and particularly questions at the really practical level. How do you actually do this stuff? Or I'm having trouble with this. We've tried this and it didn't work. That kind of stuff. Okay, I know you guys are familiar with it, so I'm going to let the silence be silent. We've got to think about this stuff on a daily basis. That means, are we reading the Bible? What does worship look like in our lives? Are we living a life of worship? What does our prayer life look like? Those would be the three things that I would normally put into the daily rhythm of abiding. You can totally add more. Dance could be in there depending upon your makeup. Walks could be in there on a daily basis. But I think, those are the three that I would naturally go to. On a weekly basis, it looks different. Do we have a Sabbath day of rest? Now, doesn't mean that I'm saying be legalistic and, no touching anything that is like this, and you only travel this far away from home. It's what types of things restore life to you that you don't normally take the time to do. What types of things are refreshing? What types of things recreate life in you? And what if God gave you the gift of a day to do those things that you don't normally take time to do? I think that's, when he says that man was not made for Sabbath, Sabbath was made for man. It's a gift that oftentimes I think we look at in a different way. So do you have rhythms for weekly Sabbath and then seasonal? Now, this may be vacation, but it may be something different than vacation. Our home group is getting ready to come to a seasonal time of abiding. And, there's different types of activity that happens there, but we're going to stop meeting in our regular rhythm. That's a way that we're practicing seasonal. And I think we're getting more used to it, but I feel like we've developed decent daily and weekly rhythms, but seasonal is still an area where we're really trying to grow and still failing forward in that. So I'd love to hear then, if there's no other questions about the rest of the semicircle, which one of these is the hardest one for you, daily or weekly?
I would have to say weekly for me.
Give us a little bit of like the why. What happens that makes weekly, whatever word you would use, impossible, hard,
Well, we have it scheduled Sunday.
That's a big win.
Yeah, we have it scheduled. Our boys usually don't, we want it to be family time because everybody's just off in 10,000 different directions. So obviously it's hanging out with the family. But what I've been trying to figure out what it's been looking like is everybody playing video games together. They don't play during the week. And so that's like the day we all play together, even though I stink at it so badly. It's really horrible and stressful for me. We try to all do that together, but it still doesn't feel very, I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't know, it's just not working, in my opinion. And so I've been trying to think of what can we do. When you were talking, I was just thinking, what can we do? Like, I enjoy doing crafts and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering if we should all just find something we enjoy and just do it around the same table. I don't know. We just need to rethink it, I think.
Yeah. I'm just putting these words up here because these are the words that usually I went through to think, how do we do this? Which, by the way, again, that Sacred Pathways book is about how do we individually like connect with God and what brings life that way. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think your ideas are great. Do you have like a time where it worked really well, like once or twice, where you're like, oh, this was it. We were really doing it.
It's just bounced around a lot. Yeah. We've just in the last 4 or 5 months have like, nope, we're taking Sunday after church. We're doing our things. We're saying no to other things, which is good. So there's a lot of good parts to it. Yeah, I mean, we make the time to be with each other. We know it's for us. But honestly, I really think it's because, and my kids will disagree, but I think it has to do with electronics being in part of it. Yep. It's just not the togetherness I was expecting it. You know, it's all playing together. So I figured, hey, that's fine. They get to do just something they enjoy and we get to play. But yeah.
Just to commend, man, it is so good to hear where you're at because you've put the plow to the ground and you've dug up some really hard things. We've scheduled it. This is what we're focusing in on. But then you're running up against, we go different directions. Electronics is a part of that. And then we just have these different personalities. We like to do different things. And then age fits in there as well. And so, man, well done in there and what you have been able to develop. And so I think that, yeah, I remember being at these places too. Recently, Kimberly's been saying, I think we need to have no device Sabbath days. And so we've put that into practice more so lately because we can do that. And so if you take the strength of the schedule and a plan, that's usually what has been making the biggest difference for us. Actually have a plan for this is the kind of day of rest that we're going to have. We're going to do a creative day of rest. Oh, Mom, that sounds so boring. I know, but hey, humor me here. We're going to everybody's going to create something. So start thinking in advance about what you might want to create. We're not going to go buy everything. We're going to use what we already have here or blah, 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 however you want to do it. And then the next time, hey, we're going to do an engagement day of rest. Well, what's that mean? We're going to go do something together. So how about, Ethan, you get to choose. What would you like to do that we've done in the past that we can do together? We're going to do an activity. Could be out of doors, could be indoors. So those when we're doing it well, and we're not necessarily doing it well at this moment, we usually have a plan and it's got almost a theme to it. And then usually that's when the girls are like, I love this. Please don't, it's almost like they're saying, please don't ever take this time away. Good stuff, Cindy. Somebody else jump in. Get practical just like that. Where are you at? Which one's harder, daily or weekly? And kind of break it down like you were hearing Cindy talk. Kimberly, why don't you jump into that? I can't see your face from the screen I'm on. What are some other things from your mom angle that you can, like, as you're hearing where Cindy's describing where they're at, what are some things that made a big difference on your end?
Well, I think one of the things that we did is it didn't have to be the same every time. Like it could look different every time. And so like a win for us was at the end of it, we all felt like revived, we all felt like it was a life-giving time. So, and we do a lot of different things. You know, there are times that we stay at home and we binge watch TV. There's times that we that we play games all day long and just graze on leftovers in the refrigerator. There's times that we all cook together and make something, you know, and um, we go for hikes, we go on bike rides, we drive up to the mountains, we go camping sometimes. And I know that's not realistic for a day, but so it doesn't always look different. And we let the girls decide some of those things too. And, you know, it's not always my favorite thing. But it's something that we are all doing together, and it is restful. It just depends, I think, on the attitude that you bring to the table too at the time. Like, you need to have an attitude that this is an abiding time. You know, you're praying, reading, and, you know, so I just think that it doesn't always look the same. And I don't think that typically it's not going to look the same from one family to the next. You know, Amy's day of rest is going to look very different than us because she has a little boy.
Zane.
You know, yeah. And
it's going to include costumes.
Yes, like they're going to be the Incredibles that day, and they're going to go to the mountains dressed like that and eat some strange food that he's made up. And you know, but it's a season, and we've wrestled through it. There are times that things begin to creep back in, and then we have to stop and readjust.
Yeah. So I think we get into ruts, like, because and I think it has to do with probably like laziness. So like the schedule and the plan make a big difference. And so I've even been saying that it like takes a lot of work to rest. So rest is a lot of work, because to do it well and to really see it like do its intended purpose, it requires that planning and that scheduling. Because if the house is messy and it's a day of rest, I know what Kimberly's day of rest is she's gonna be anxious. So that means, did we clean the house, and are we able to do that? That means it was a lot of work to get to this point where we really could rest and enjoy the life that God has given to us. And so it is crazy. I was so shocked at how much work it took to rest well.
Yeah, I think what's hitting me is trying different things. I feel like the boys have kind of, and not intentionally, but like that's what they dubbed as their day to how all of us play video games together. And so I think, I think that's the key. Like, they've turned it into video game day as opposed to, And so that's what it's been going through my mind. And it's like, but this helps clarify the whys and all that stuff. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in?
I think that I have a lot of thoughts going through my head right now, but one of the biggest ones is Jeff and I both come into our marriage with a lot more time being single parents than being married. And so we're battling that culture of there is no time to rest because you're doing the work of both parents in a single parent home. And so now, you know, we have all this stuff, you throw it all up in the air and try to settle into a new routine. And then add into that, I mean, my oldest is going to be 26 next year. Just grieving what I didn't do with him that I'm trying to do with Tristan or trying to do with Zane. And it's completely different to raise a kid that you just want some peace and quiet, so you plop them in front of the TV and you call that family time, compared to, no, let's turn off all the devices, which we have done. We're putting everything in timeout today so we can refocus and reconnect. But we're constantly, and I don't know if this is the right word, but picking our battles, picking the hill we're going to die on constantly. Is it worth the battle right now to reset the culture? And even though it's not fun and it's not sexy, which, by the way, is Zane's favorite word right now. So if you guys hear that, I did not teach him that one.
I didn't teach him that either. I don't want to like be.
So it's making me laugh every time I see that word. I'm like, Zane's here. But so we just recently started trying to do date night, and we've never done it, like never. And we show up and we're like, I don't even know what to talk to you about because I don't know you, you know, but it's worth it. We know it's worth it to battle through it. And it's kind of the first hill we're doing, that we're doing battle on is trying to make this like that. And then Zane takes over everything right now. And I'm kind of, gosh, I've been raising kids for 26 years now. Is it ever going to end? It's starting all over again with Zane. But it's, I don't know where I'm going, but it's worth it to do the battles. And trying to teach Tristan, you cannot be a hermit in your room and play games all the time. Like,
Yes.
You have to come out. And that is a big battle. And trying to get Zane not to take over every single conversation in every single arena he's in, that's a battle.
Yeah.
And, I'm tired. And so sometimes I'm like, sure, just tell your stories. It's good. Sure, just play your games. It's good.
Yeah. Yep. And when I really think about it, hearing it through that lens, I'm reminded that just like rest is a lot of work, there actually is a lot of really good discipline that comes into play. So like, for example, like, hey, we're going to incorporate prayer into our day of rest. Now it's going to be Zane level and Tristan level, not Amy's level of like intercession, the way that she's going to want it to be, but it's going to be a place to practice the discipline and make it normal. And it's going to be super short and then move on from there. And, another way to practice discipline, hey, we're going to practice solitude. We've never done this one. My introverted nature would be like, this would be awesome. Let's practice solitude on a day of rest. But like, okay, everybody goes to their room. And for the next, I'm thinking hour, I don't know how, next hour, find something to do in your room, whether it's a book or something that you just do on your own. Let's just practice that together. So again, it's about engaging with these disciplines, but in snippets, so that, because all these different personality types have got to fit in. Kimberly jumps on her solitude right there.
Well, I was going to say, and we share a room, so I don't have to be alone.
True. Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, I think this is all the practical stuff. And it is, like, Amy, I think what you're getting at, it's worth it. Even just start small, steps up the hill. And I think that your date night is the right battle to win first.
Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to say, Cindy, like, for what you were saying about trying to play games with the boys, I have that battle too. I'm not interested in games at all. I actually told Tammy, hey, can you play games with my son?
I'm terrible. I don't know. I can't even walk and shoot.
I don't know what happened. I remember playing Mario Brothers, and then the next round of games came out, and I just checked out. Like, I'm not into this anymore. So, but Jeff watches a lot of TV, and I could not even own a TV in my entire home and be perfectly happy. And so a lot of times he's watching TV and I'm reading, and nobody's talking to me, so my introvert bucket is getting filled up, and he feels like I'm engaging with him because I'm sitting in the same room where the TV is playing. So I mean, there's, it's another pick your battle type of thing. I could go hide in my room, and that's not really fun.
Yeah.
Yep. I think the word, so like, that's, when you look at what's refreshing, what's recreating, what's restoring, intimacy is, I think, one of the chief byproducts that we're looking to gain. Now, intimacy comes in laughter. Intimacy comes in memories. It comes in devotion and prayer. I mean, it's intimacy amongst the family, in the marriage, intimacy between us and the Lord. I think what really comes out of abiding and remaining, that's the chief product. And so you're right. I'm thinking of our own lives, when we get stuck in those ruts, that's what the quality diminishes drastically. Like, it's not very intimate. And I get you, somebody's watching, this, somebody's engaging in this, and we're still, but the intimacy quotient is very low in all of that. And so great stuff, guys. I think this is, so just like you guys have been contending in mission, this is a battle worth fighting. And I think it's a long haul vision. I will be a person that learns to live in rhythm with the life that God has given to me, because I want to steward the resources that he's given to me. And this life is the main resource he's given me. And I want to help build a culture where my family can do that. And it takes a lot of time and stumbling forward. So, all right, guys. Next week is our last one. We'll be on next Wednesday, and then just day before Thanksgiving. And then we've got our very final immersion for home group on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and it's bring leftovers. Of course, if you don't have leftovers, you can make something that somehow fits into the Thanksgiving theme if you would like, but just come and share. We'll have some time. It'll be an up and in day instead of an in and out day. And so we'll probably just do some reflection on the whole process of the Explorer Huddle and where we've been growing that way. Okay. All right. Bless you guys.
Amen.
Thank you.
I like how John said amen at the end of that one.
Amen.
Amen.
No, not in a negative sense, but a positive sense.